Action! Hello and welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking.
From indie film to studio films, to high-end TV, to documentaries and
everything in between.
How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
really F them up.
In our joyful and humble opinion.
Joy unbounded.
I am Giles Alderson.
I'm Dom Lenoir.
And we are both writer, directors and producers. Not in that order. Maybe it is. Sometimes. Who knows?
Maybe even comedians.
Well, that's pushing it. Low-rent comedians. End of the pier. That's an insult to end of the pier comedian.
Appears so.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Welcome to the show. On this week's episode, we have the director behind the brand new feature film, which is on Netflix right now, called Joy. And the director is Ben Taylor.
So we've tailored this episode just for you.
Just for you. He has also directed. He's very much known. That's great. Yeah. He's very much known for Sex Education, but we're going to come back to his credits in a little bit. Dom, what did you and the lovely Ben Taylor talk about?
We talked about the real story and birth of IVF and how Jean Purdy was overlooked in her crucial work. We talked about Ben's own journey with IVF and trying to tell those very important stories of all the people that have gone through it. Working with Bill Nighy and Thomasin Mackenzie and some of those wonderful, quiet moments on set where they got to create magic. Moving from TV to film and getting out of the Sex Education label from his work.
Joy stars Thomasin Mackenzie and Bill Nighy, as Dom has said, but it also stars James Norton, Joanna Scanlon, Jemima Rooper, and Nicholas Rowe. And we're going to come back to what it's about just before we play the trailer, just before we go into the chat itself. But we've decided to do something a bit different with the podcast. We thought we'd do a question and then answer it at the end in our outro. So, a question of the week, if you like, a question of the episode. And the question is, Dom?
What is harder, moving from TV to film or from film to TV?
I put out a tweet on Twitter. I put out a post because me and Dom were chatting about whether we prefer pre-production or post-production. And that sparked a debate. And we thought, why don't we do this more? Why don't we ask questions and you give us responses on how you're feeling about the industry, what's happening, quotes, etc., etc. So we're carrying on with this theme. So this will be on our socials as well. So we'll be asking there. So feel free to respond there. But we will be answering this at the end of this episode, what we feel.
In our very humble opinions.
In our very, very humble opinions. So Ben Taylor, as we mentioned there, Sex Education has been his big, big breakthrough. He not only directed 12 episodes, but exec produced 28. So that might be all of them. I can't count. He also directed Renegade Nell recently.
I think there's like 8 series of it. Probably not.
Probably not then. Year of the Rabbit, Raised by Wolves, Catastrophe, which directed 18 episodes of the brilliant comedy series Catastrophe by Rob Delaney and Sharon Horgan. And he's worked heavily since about 2011, 2013, making TV series like Cuckoo, Cardinal Burns, Cockroaches, and The Circuit. And now he's made his first feature film, Joy.
With Jack Thorne as well.
Yeah, which is written by Jack Thorne.
Jack Thorne has been featured on quite a few of our previous podcasts, actually, including...
His name.
Yeah, well, no. Oh, yeah, yes, that's true. His name has been featured on quite a few of our episodes, including The Swimmers. What was the other one? The Aeronauts, and also The Wonder. I knew it was the Wonder. That was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, that was it. The Wonder. He's amazing. And he's written this as well. He's written Joy. He's a bit of a legend, isn't he? Bit of a legend. He's a bit of a national treasure. Yeah. He also wrote that. So, let's get to the episode with Dom and Ben Taylor. But we're going to play the trailer. First of all, Dom, do you want to describe what the film Joy is about?
Joy is the arduous and confrontational route to getting IVF created and sanctioned and even allowed from a political, religious and scientific perspective. And it is about the untold story of Jean Purdy, who was instrumental amongst the other 2 doctors in creating the first test tube baby.
Without you, none of this works.
What we're doing, it matters.
I just want a baby.
So, welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, we're a filmmaking podcast, so we kind of talk all about the process and the trials and tribulations along the way. And it's a joy to be here. And an amazing film.
Oh, thank you.
And a really heartfelt film and an important one. How are you feeling about the whole release with such a unique moment in history?
Yeah, I think it's funny, and I'm glad you said it before I said it, but when you say that it's an important film, that's always the last thing. I think it's the last thing on your mind when you're making it, because there's so many other elements that you're personally sort of terrified about and sort of hiding. So the thought of it being important feels too grand and sort of highfalutin. And then you make it and then you finish it, and it's sort of sat on the shelf for a few months whilst we've been waiting for the release, and now just starting to watch it with audiences who are connecting with it and moved by it, and the possibility of it being important in a conversation then starts to dawn on you, and it's thrilling.
So let's talk a little bit about the tone of the film, because it's one of those films where I think it's a mixture of like what you've done as a director with the tone and the cast, but it's a very uplifting, sort of very, very warming affair with Thomasin and Bill, the way they kind of play off each other and the tone. But there's also there is a lot of dark, there's difficult themes in there. There's conflict. There's complicated characters. So just be really interested to know like how that sort of tone setting was in your mind when you were sort of going into this.
Yeah, I think I still felt like the hardest part of my job still is when you're in a pitching stage and you get asked about tone, because I find it almost, as I'm about to prove to you, almost impossible to describe.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And I think when I because I've wanted to do this like pretty much all my life, and when I was getting to work with on my first gigs and like reading like proper screenwriters' scripts, the tone for me was always just, I'd get asked what's the tone of it, and I'd just be like, well,
there it is.
It's there. It is. Yeah. It's in there, and you realise that it's the film you can see in your head that you hope with sort of best will in the world to pull off, but you can see it and you can hear it. And I've had to get better at articulating when you're pitching, because otherwise you don't win the job. But with this one, I think you absolutely said it right. It's hard not to pun all the time with this, but it is.
I know. I've done about 5 in the back of my mind already.
It's a joyful thing, and the story is about this world-changing discovery that has brought hope to tens of millions of families, and that inevitably, you're sort of embarking on a journey of a feel-good story. I think because I'm the father of 2 IVF babies, and it was the reason I wanted to get involved with the film. Anybody who's been through that, and anybody who's struggled with fertility personally, or not even personally, if it's your brother or sister or friend, you don't have to go very far to sort of chat to somebody that's gone through it or going through it.
Which is a line in the film almost.
Yeah, completely.
Which is lovely.
The assumption is it's a very niche problem and it couldn't be further from the truth. But I think when you apply that to tone, you realise that yes, there's a warmth to it, and yes, there's a sort of air-punching finale to it, but it's not a simple victory. It isn't that we have cured fertility and everybody high fives. It's that they've found a procedure that's going to give you a chance and going to give you hope, but it isn't a catch-all fix. And so with that, you then realise, my wife and I were very lucky, and we got lucky and it worked twice. But for a lot of people, it doesn't work, and it is an incredibly loaded subject. And therefore the film, even though it is feel good, like you say, it comes with a level of depth and complexity, hopefully, and Jean represents that so brilliantly in the film.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, her character is the most one of the most complex in the film, and Hope is almost, you've got almost like these two competing themes of joy and hope, and joy is like the end result, and hope is actually like this kind of there's not just hope in the traditional sense. It's actually there's this sadness and this, you know, is this ever going to happen for me kind of feeling that's embodied in her character. That I think really makes the polarizing, you know, going back to tone again, but that those two sort of things competing really worked very well.
Yeah, and I think there's a sort of desperation as a very sort of close bedfellow to hope as well, and I think that's what when you're in this position, you don't want to wear desperation openly in public. You sort of don't tend to share it other than with whoever you're going through it with. And I think there's also very British, the sort of stiff upper lipness of it, and especially with a period film of it, is this is a film that it celebrates the three people that made the breakthrough, but I think it very much honours the hundreds of women that put themselves through it, knowing that they were desperate for it to work, but knowing sort of in no uncertain terms that it wasn't going to work for them, but they were doing it for the greater good and those that came after them.
So just going even further into that side of things, like we talked a little bit about the cast, but they are, you know, very charming actors that you always just have a wholesome feel when you kind of watch them. The cinematography has moments when it's quite sort of, you know, in their hospital, for instance, it's a little bit run down, but there's a sort of a nice nostalgia, and you sort of go back into the era. Were those decisions that were made like quite early on, like the visual side and the casting to kind of honor this, you know, journey that you were trying to go on? Yeah,
I think the casting happens first because it's really hard to make a film without a cast, and it was tough. Like it was so clearly an amazing script from Jack, and Jack is a very bankable writer, but it was hard, and Netflix read it, and thank God, I'm so grateful to them. They just came on and said they loved it and just gave us the money and cheered us on, and they are still now. I think they're very proud of the film, and so they ended up being an amazing partner with us. But yeah, that was cast based, so you needed this great foundation to build it on. So that sort of happens in one quadrant, world, one quadrant, and then when you're approaching, you start to look into the look of it. And I obviously had it in my head. I think I'd pitched with like a visual deck, and you then look for your collaborators, and Jamie Kearney, who's the DP, who's been like one of my best friends, and he's pretty much shot everything I've ever done. He came in and pitched, and we got to work together on this. And yeah, the visual style is, again, not to like make it ludicrously positive or take too much artistic license, but the reality is, as you can imagine, the labs did not look like that. You don't build a lab for depth and have layers and glass, and it's very boxy. The actual building in Oldham couldn't be less cinematic. So you knew it wasn't that we were going for, like, Paul Greengrass would have done an amazing job with this film, I'm sure, far better, but he would have approached it through like very, very strict realism. And you look at this sort of shitty box room, it's like, yeah, that's our lot. Whereas we knew we wanted to add magic to it. I think the procedure itself is very, very binary. You take one of these and add it to one of those, and it's very fiddly, obviously. But we wanted to celebrate it for the miracle that it is. So we knew we wanted to heighten it, and we wanted to not overly romanticize it, but to give it its own character.
And it does. It has that kind of lived-in feel, and it's also sort of cozy and charming, and it feels like it's an embodiment of these characters in a way.
Yeah,
which I think was a really nice. It felt very personal. It never felt like a big sort of scientific endeavor, which it could easily have done from any number of kind of aspects of the film.
Well, it was funny, we were making it and bloody Oppenheimer came
out. Oh, right.
And they were doing what we were doing with at least another zero on the end of their budget, and they were doing like lab stuff, and theirs, apart from the actual explosion, could have been dry as well, but they did it so, like, he's just so incredible and did it with such mastery. But we were then looking at that, and it's like, it needs to be more, it needs to be heightened, it needs to have a take. And so, yeah, that's, I think, what we ended up going for.
So were all the cast, were they always in mind? Did they sort of come on at the Netflix point?
Yeah, I think they were they were the dream cast. Bill was the first one on. James was in the middle of a very heavy play, so we assumed he wouldn't be interested because we just assumed he'd need months off to recover. He was in A Little Life in the West End, which was, I'm not sure if you saw it, but it's hardcore.
Yeah, I'm aware of it, yeah.
But he read it and was excited. And then Thomasin, my only hesitation with Thomasin is she's really young, and Jean, we tell the story of her going from 23 to 33, and she was 23 at the time that we made it. And I was like, oh, I wonder. In my head, I think I'd thought we would cast older and play down. But when we read with Thomasin, she's genuinely extraordinary and just embodies, like she is, you know, it's an overused phrase and sort of irrelevant really for filming, but like she is an old soul and she has an incredible amount of depth and detail to her talent. And she just came in and it's like, oh shit, we don't need to use prosthetics at all. Like we changed the wig once and she just tells you the story of the difference between her being a 23-year-old woman and a 33-year-old woman. And for me anyway, I find it endlessly convincing.
Yeah, she is. I mean, you're immediately sort of captivated, and she kind of walks the line between a very progressive woman on the one hand, and then also very traditional, very charming. You know, like little moments like the pickle jar that kind of embody the good sort of nature of the era, and it's a really nice sort of combination that her character has that isn't too one note, that she does spectacularly. Yeah, and some of the scenes with her and Bill, especially in the are just perfect sort of acting.
Yeah, it was funny. Jack, when we were courting Bill, had written him a note. So the way you go out and sort of catch your cast is you'll send the script, but with a personal note. And Jack is amazing.
How long do you do it for your personal note? Because there's debate. Should it be a page? Should it be 2 pages?
It's that. Yeah, there's an optimum length. I think you don't want to put them off before they've even opened the script. So I think Jack's mastered it. I think he's like a couple of perfect paragraphs.
Yeah,
but he had warned Bill. He said, we'd love you to read this. Please be aware he doesn't get good until the 3rd act, because you know him less for the start, and then his scenes towards the end are just so fantastic. And the scene in the pub between him and Thomasin, I think, is my favourite in the film, and it's like just this amazing moment where you get to see Bill show off.
Yeah.
And he's fantastic at it and entirely unassuming, but you could listen to Bill talk in a pub for hours.
Yeah, just so much charisma.
Yeah.
So working with actors of that caliber, how do you kind of tend to work with them? Is it sort of discussions? I mean, let's talk about the sort of the main cast. Is it discussions ahead of time? Do you like to do any kind of rehearsal? Is it talking about it on set?
I think on set, your time is so precious. There's a fear of figuring stuff out, and you'd like pushing it down the road. It can really bite you in the arse. But the older I get, the less use I find for rehearsals in like the traditional sense. I weirdly find it quite awkward when you're like getting the idea of getting something up on its feet. And I've not worked in theatre. My best friend's a theatre director, Rob Hasty, and he's brilliant at it. And he'll also be a brilliant TV and film director when he wants to make that step over. I know I can't do the theatre thing because the rehearsal thing, I need a camera. I need to know what the blocking is. I need to know what the set is. So the idea of sort of being in the rehearsal room saying, okay, Bill, let's say the door's. And your chair, and there's a level of unreality that I actually find unhelpful. And fortunately, when you're working with actors of this level, and everybody, I'm sure you know, everybody needs different things.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different process. And I think Bill was really clear with me. He's not a big fan of rehearsal. And I was like, oh, good, nor am I. But what you then find in its place, which is far more valuable, is just like you say, it's just the discussion and raking through the script and talking about the scenes. You don't want to overrun it because I come from a comedy background, and you'd feel this danger. If you overread a funny scene, it'll
Stop
lose
being
its funny
yeah,
and it will
everyone.
never come back. So you want to have a level of freshness and spontaneity to it. And I think with this, it was, we would talk about it a lot, but we wouldn't read it very much. But you can totally rest assured that they will come in prepared. And I think that's the difference. It depends what your cast is. But with these three guys, it was, they're going to come in ready. They'll know the lines. They'll have ideas, some of which we've discussed, some of which they're going to surprise you with.
Yeah.
And it definitely makes a director's job easier, because then you're only adjusting or adding to it. You're not fixing.
Sort of understanding, like, will my character go this way in this scene, or maybe they can go this way. It's adjustments and understanding, I suppose, about, what you're trying to get across as a director.
Yeah. And also you're gathering, like, I'm sure you've heard, like, the old adage of that the film's rewritten in the edit.
Yeah.
And it's my first film, and it's the first time. So I've done like a concentrated 2 hours of a story, and it was amazing how true that was. It wasn't radical. We didn't have any reshoots, but you're going through and you're crafting, and it's a choice of performance, obviously, but also omission. It's like, well, what if this line wasn't there, or what if this scene never happened? And it was amazing, because we're quick. My editor, Dave, who I've worked with for years, is quick. So we'd sort of done a pretty decent cut of it in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
And we were sort of sitting there in Soho, sort of
looking at it
really
all come
proud
together.
of ourselves.
Yeah.
We were sort of like, well, let's bring the release forward because we're finished.
Yeah.
And then 4 months later, we locked it, I think.
It's amazing, yeah.
And because you've got this real luxury time where you're fine tuning it and you're bringing out stuff, and there's a real alchemy to it, but based on rushes where these amazing actors are giving you stuff. Like Thomasin's so detailed and so prepared, and she's one of those camera actors where you're watching it in the room, it's like, oh, that's really good, but it isn't till you watch it back and you're in a close-up and you're like, oh my God, she's doing this.
It's all the inner life, isn't it? It's the thoughts that are going through contrary to the sort of subtext,
and it's
all
a
that
thrill
stuff.
Because like none of that was from me. That was all just a gift from her to the film. But it means that your dials can be really fine-tuned. So you'd get what would be, and I can be quite pissy when you get notes in, like everybody can, where it's like, well, it's impossible. I can't possibly adjust with that note. And then you sort of get over yourself and then go for a walk, and then you come back an hour later and it's like, okay, well, let's try so-and-so. And you're looking, and if you find those, it's the discoveries. An offline, as long as ours was, it's the discoveries that are the biggest joy, I think.
I suppose it's finding the moments where it needs to breathe, where it's been a bit more fun, it needs to go a bit more serious.
Yeah.
And it's having those peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a lot of the finding of the edit, isn't it?
Tons of
in
that.
Performance.
And again, Jack is, as a writer, is so skilled. He's baked a lot of that in, and he knows rhythm and tone and structure. So you're looking at a pretty complete thing, but then it's how you make that better. And it's like making, it's showing my age, but like making a mixtape where you can't just hit that same note over and over, and you need breath and you need rest, and music has a lot to do with that as well. But yeah, it was, I think the danger is you're always fearful of sort of overworking it and sort of over kneading the dough. But I think we lost probably about 15 minutes worth of footage.
Okay,
so
that's good. Yeah.
Do you know, it's a really good instinct now for me personally as a film viewer and lover. We were under a huge amount of pressure to be under 2 hours, which I think everybody should be under that pressure, and not everybody acknowledges that.
Yeah.
But we were sort of drifting a little north of 2 hours, and they said it's good, but it would be a lot nicer if it was 1 hour 50.
Yeah. Well, it's audience's attention span, but you know, there are moments when you can always just trim.
Yeah.
And keep that sort of pace and the engagement.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's one of the big things I've always thought about is having to have that moment where actually less can be more. Having a moment play out really well once is better than having it play out 3 or 4 times.
Completely. And this was an exercise in that, because the story's about repetition. So the story is about, they decide to do this thing. It's going to take 10 years. It's going to take almost an infinite amount of failures before the success. But the thing they're doing is the same over and over. The faces change and the volunteers change, but they're driving up the motorway, the same motorway in the same car, and they just keep trying and trying and trying. So I was under this, I really laboured under, it turns out, wrong fear of, we've got to show it 1,000 times or people won't believe they did it 1,000 times. And it's like, no, you get it.
You have to give it's the emotional hint, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
and a hint of a montage.
So well. Yeah.
And montages are terrifying, but they do their job. Like so yeah, that was a lot of the stuff that came out, was the sort of, we get it note.
So we mentioned Jack a little bit. Let's go back to the script, how you sort of came across the project, and then what that process was like in terms of the development, you coming on board, your thoughts on the script and the story and that kind of thing.
So I did a show called Sex Education, also on Netflix, for a number of years, and loved it, but knew after 3 series of that I needed to step off it, otherwise I'd just do it forever, because it was my favourite ever thing. So I was then taking sort of general meetings and saying sort of, I'm becoming available, have you got anything? And knew I'd wanted, like, since I was very, very young, knew I wanted to make a film, but just the right script had never presented itself. And as you can imagine, you get pigeonholed, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. But with sex ed, all I was getting was sex comedies from America, which is big a fan of that subgenre as I am. I knew I didn't want to do more high
system,
school stuff. Exactly. Yeah. So I knew I didn't have much more to say in that area. And then so I just wasn't reading anything film shaped that was interesting. Whereas TV is so fantastically complex and fertile, and you get to tell big stories over a big amount of time. So that was always a slightly easier thing for me to get my head around, but my desire to do a film had never stopped. And I knew the guys, Jenny at Pathé, I was mates with, and went in for just a cup of tea with her, and she said, we've got one of these, and we've got Jack Thorne's script about the origins of IVF. And it was like,
wow. Yeah, personal connection.
Massive fan of Jack. And also just fascinated by what that story could be, and read it and was floored by it. And obviously floored by it, I think probably initially just because of how personal it felt, but also just, that it was a really good film. And it's so weird to say that, but when you read a film that wants to just be a film, whereas you read films now where there's been a note somewhere along the line of,
franchise,
miniseries, franchise. This was just this story, and it was perfect, and its end was inevitable and perfect. And so, sort of petitioned to get on board, and it wasn't easy, and it took quite a while, and dates didn't line up, and I thought I'd missed the boat, and then it came back round, and it just, it worked.
So what were some of the differences between his script, which is obviously fantastic, and you coming on, and then you've got your director's take, your own sort of way you're thinking about how things sort of pan out? Were there any discussions on rewrites? Did you do any sort of dialogue tweaks, or was it mostly in the sort of the visuals and the performance?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the answer similar to your question about tone. It was always just my execution of it was how I always imagined it. And it was, the better the material is, the easier that execution is, or hopefully successful it's going to be. Jack, have you met him yet?
I haven't, no. We've sort of dodged around in so many different things. But
he's that amazing sort of unimaginable combo of somebody who's supremely talented and hugely successful and revered, and also an incredibly generous collaborator. Like, he deserves to be an absolute aloof monster because he's great at what he does. But it was the opposite. He was so he's just ready to hand it over to me. So I think he feels it very much as part of the filmmaking work. And it is different to TV, but with films, like, great, let's see what you want to do with it. So he wasn't suspicious of sort of my motives or my ideas. I'd come in at quite a late stage of development, so the script had gone through rounds of notes. I did have a notes round, but they were pretty minor. And then he was with me for like the rehearsals and stuff that we did do. And did you know what? The actors probably had more tweaks than I did. But yeah, just this dreamy collaborator who was only ever there to cheer you on. He wasn't suspicious of it at all.
That's brilliant.
And I know that sounds like a junket answer, but it's really genuinely is true.
What was what was the biggest difficulty of doing a feature versus television? Or shift?
The biggest shift was a misconception that I had for a number of years, that once I get to make a film, I've made it and everything's going to become easier. There's going to be more time. There's going to be more money. And none of it was true. And it's a busy, partly because by virtue of it being over a 10-year period, and it's not that it's a whole 2-hour montage, but they're short scenes. So I think we had something like 170 scenes to shoot, which if you do the maths of putting that into a 7-week schedule, it's like, fucking hell, there's a lot of big days and a lot of unachievable days. And it's this big red pen that comes out from your AD where they'll do the schedule, but then they'll write at the top, unachievable.
Yeah.
And we managed to sort of wangle a few things around, but we went into a lot of unachievable days and we just had to do it. And
but I suppose that's where you find the sort of these genius solution moments, aren't you? Where it's actually, I didn't need that.
Makes you focus on coverage in a way that is healthy and you as filmmakers should do, which I think TV, you can get into bad habits with.
Yeah.
Great, we need one of these. We need overs, we need masters, we need everything. And you go into something like this and it's like, well, we'll never make our days if that's the attitude. So it would be elegant one shots, or it'd be stuff just told in details, or it'd be, you had to adapt. And then you realize when you're editing that was the best thing that happened to you, because otherwise, I don't know, it's not, I find it inherently cinematic, the film, but it's small, so it has a televisual feel because it's something that would have been achievable for TV. But you try and push yourself to make it.
Oh, it felt cinematic.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially like allowing those scenes to breathe.
That's the difference.
That's
do you know what? That's the difference, and it isn't
the gap in the dialogue.
Yeah, and you realise that that's pretty close to talking about pretension, where it's like, well, it's as long as it needs to be, but it's the notes you get from TV execs are different to film, where people are like, you still,
you're allowed to use stillness,
and you grant the audience not tons of patience, but you imagine they've got more patience and they're invested and they're in the story and it's only 2 hours of their life.
Yeah.
Whereas with TV, if you slow the pace down too much, it can be fatal.
I think we've got about 30 seconds left. So just a very quick bit of advice to yourself starting out in the industry, if you could go back in time.
Oh, Jesus. I just feel so lucky. Like the advice would just be to not lose heart and to keep pushing. And keep, like, it is just, I mean, just to be cheesy and tie it back into the characters in the story, it's just tenacity and
hope,
determination and hope.
Wonderful.
And don't be a dick. And
that's
tends
a good one,
to be the thing, because you realise that people who are going to employ you have the opportunity to employ 100 other people. And if you've ever not been fun to work with, it's the easiest reason in the world to not hire somebody.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's such a wonderful story, and great to hear Jean getting the limelight that she deserves.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And
thank you. It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we have it. That was Dom chatting with Ben Taylor, the director of Joy, which is out on Netflix now. Go watch it. Go support.
Yeah. And you can watch the interview as well, because it's on camera.
Oh, but that means I might not have put it up yet, Dom.
Well, you better get editing then, Giles. So now we know, if you can't see any of the video clips, Giles hasn't done
Giles
his
is
homework.
busy. Giles is far too busy trying to get films made. But yes, at some point, I'll stick it up on YouTube. But if not, you can catch the last couple of episodes, which have also been filmed, which is our June special.
Yeah.
With our cast, some of the amazing cast from June, and also Wicked. I got to sit down and have a chat with John M. Chu, the director of Wicked. It's amazing. It's out in cinemas now.
Chewing the fat.
I love how ridiculous that was. It was great.
God. No one's safe from nicknames. No one's safe.
No one's safe from Dom's puns. So at the beginning of the episode, we asked the question. It's our question of the episode, which we're starting. Hopefully we'll carry on. See how we get on. Is it easier to move from film to TV or TV to film? And what was really interesting is, Dom, you chatted with Ben about exactly that. So how do we feel? What do you think? Should we answer this in some way?
Well, I mean, I think there's several layers to this question. I think the overarching answer is, if you do something really big in film or television, it's quite easy to move across because you have a track record with a really big company. I say easy. It's not easy to move across, but I think the companies are very much willing to give you a shot if you come with a good project and a good idea and you've really proven yourself on a big scale. I think that playing field, I think it's something you can do. I think it's something you can do with a good pitch, and they'll be open to that kind of transition. I think if you haven't made a massive impact in either, it's still a very tricky thing to do.
Yes, I agree. But the question is...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there
is it easier
I don't know.
to go to film to TV or TV to film?
I feel like... Yeah, I think TV to film, maybe, because debut feature film... I don't know. Like I just feel like I've seen so many examples of people that have done like quite reasonable films, and then they go to TV and they're like, okay, yeah, you can go and shadow someone.
Yeah,
and it's not like
this is the problem I've found as well. You know, I've made 5 feature films as a director, but for me to get into TV is really difficult. It's like, go do some episodes of Hollyoaks, go do The Bill when it was around, go do Doctors when it was around. It's a bit like, well, yeah, I'd love to do those, but even those you can't get through the door. It's kind of like, well, we've already got our regulars. Yeah, but you know, I mean that in the nicest possible way. They're still great, and what a great breeding ground, and great, you know, to direct any of those is fantastic for any director. I never put my nose up at any of those things, but for us to direct something like Sex Education or, you know, any of those, you know, Day of the Jackal, no chance. Absolutely no chance would a TV take us seriously. It doesn't matter how, like, you know, many films we've made. And I think you're right with what you said, is if we have a huge success in film, if it gets BAFTA nominated, or even if it doesn't, you know, doesn't make tons of money, but you get recognised and it's reputable, then your agent will probably put you in the room for some nice telly. However, where we're at is very tricky.
I think whichever one you've done, you've got to make whichever one you're in thicker. I think make it in that one. Like, you know, do something that like really like makes people notice, and then. But
don't we always try and do that? Like with all our films
but
or TV,
what I mean is, like, you know, if you haven't
anyway.
really made it in film, maybe, you know, try and get into TV, sure, but maybe don't try and have that big break in TV before you've had your big break in film, and vice versa. If you've been doing a lot of stuff in TV, maybe just keep plugging in TV. I don't know. That's kind of my intuition is like, go a bit further.
I agree with you. I actually do agree, because it does make sense. It's kind of like with anything, you're kind of jumping to the other side, and everyone kind of go, oh, it should be the same, and it should be, but it's not. So you're right. If you've done some work in TV, great, keep going, because one of those next series you make might be the breakout hit. And the same with the film, and therefore then you can maybe jump. But it does feel like a huge divide at the moment for us directors. I'd say writers too, producers probably exactly the same. I don't think it's an easy jump, basically. Nope. So The question is, which is easier? I'd love you guys to answer this on our socials. Go on there and just let us know what you think. It will be our pinned tweet or something, or at least it'll be in the top few. Go have a look. I would probably say if you have a breakout film, it's probably easy to go to TV. No, I don't know. I think the people who've been on the podcast, I think it's the other way round. I think the answer is those who've had a really big success in TV are more likely to go make a film. Like Ben Caron, who did really well with The Crown. This guy, Ben Taylor.
I think that's the trendier way to do it. I think that's the way that like the sort of the hype likes to go. That's my inclination. Is that it's kind of cool to give like a TV director like a feature film debut, whereas to give them like I don't know, I feel like with TV, like maybe they'd get an episode or two, in something big or maybe but they would with film it's like you're getting the whole hog when you move from TV to film. I don't think I don't think you'd necessarily go and get like all of the episodes or something, with the exception of Isa Lopez. Unlike Isa Lopez, who did it the other way around, and she did a feature film that got noticed, and then she got offered showrunning for True Detective. So it can happen both ways. I think maybe it's just a case of I think we're back to the original question. If you do something very good, then you might have a shot.
Basically, go make something brilliant, everyone, and then you might have a shot at flipping if that's what you want to do. But I also think Dom's right. If you're really good at a certain, if you're better at film, maybe, then why are you pushing TV? And the same the other way around. It's kind of a bit like, well, look,
don't be too wishy-washy and let people sway you into like, oh, this could work just as well in TV. It's like, well, do you know anyone in TV? No.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't get swayed by that. It's not going to happen unless you start knowing some people in TV. Like that's a really like common way I feel like projects can flip flop.
Well, exactly, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I feel that you can write a film and you're all talking about it and someone will go, hey, this would make a good TV show.
Yeah. And it's like,
and then you spend 6 months rewriting it.
Okay, person said that. Are you going to make it? Are you going to get it commissioned?
Exactly.
No. Yeah, so...
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for that.
And it's true. It might make a better TV
redundant
show if you haven't got the ins. Exactly, yeah. Whereas you've already written it as a film, and if you believe in it, then go make that.
Yeah.
It is that constant flip-flopping that, it might, but the likelihood is it probably won't, because you've not done anything in TV. I also feel it's easier to get a feature film made than it is to make a TV series when you haven't made anything.
Yes, yeah.
And why I say that is because you can go out and raise money. You can go out with your iPhone and shoot something, should you wish to. You've made a feature film. You cannot do that with TV. So I would say that's the route in, potentially.
There we go.
Just my thoughts.
But you give your thought. Anyway, let's do the new game.
We've got a new game. Right, we're going to do this as well.
The best game is obviously Dom and Giles, which we can only play when we're actually in person, really, for fun interviews.
On what game is this?
Well, they have to guess which one was Dom, which
guess who is Giles and who is Dom.
First pioneered
Giles or Dom.
First pioneered with Olivia Williams and Emily Watson.
Yeah, on the June episode when they had to guess. So if you haven't listened to that, go.
Emily got it right. So well done, Emily.
Yeah. Well done, Emily. Okay, so this is our new game, and it's called Film Terms. It's an exciting name. Isn't it?
I thought we were doing something fun like Giles and Dom's film term of the week.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah. And it is called. Go on.
Giles and Dom's film term of the week.
With gusto. Give it gusto, Dom.
Oh, I can't.
People want gusto. Come on. If you're gonna sing it, go.
No.
Okay. Giles and Dom's film terms of the week. If you want to make a jingle way better than either of ours, then please send it across. Yeah. We'd love that. This is called Giles and Dom's Film Terms of the Week.
Or Dom and Giles' Film Term of the Week. You could also have your say on that.
if you sang it well, you could. But hang on, you did Giles and Dom's. So. No, I think you should. I think if you sing it well,
I think Dom and Giles sounds better than Giles and Dom, but you started the podcast, so
So I get first dibs.
You get first dibs.
Anyway, right, this is, we have to name a film term that is kind of a bit unusual, and you might not know it. That's the point of this. For instance, like Apple Box, for instance. Most people know what an Apple Box is. If not, we might come back to that one. But we've decided that this week's film term of the week, Giles and Dom's, or Dom and Giles's film term of the week, is cheese plate.
Yeah.
What is a cheese plate, Dom? This is an actual film term. This is correct. This happens on a film set.
It's a plate
People
you
will
put
use
your
this
delicious
word.
cheeses on.
Incorrect. It is not. It's something to do with the camera.
Yeah. It is.
Go on. Do you want to guess?
Well, I already know because I looked at the image on Google.
Kind of ruined the game. But
Yeah.
great. Okay, so go on then. What is it?
Well,
You think
it's
you know if you looked
it's
it
a
up?
plate. It's a plate
Yep.
that is made of metal, but it's actually closer to an Emmental. So, in fact, it could even be called an Emmental plate because it's wholly full of holes.
Yes.
And
Yes, it's a metal plate
Yes.
with holes in it,
Yeah.
which is used to create camera rigs.
yeah, you can basically like fasten anything anywhere as long as you've got the right size screw. And then there we go. Yeah.
Basically, it's, as Dom said, it's a metal plate with holes, and these holes allow screws in them, screw-based devices, so that you can mount things on there easily.
No, not easily. Cheesily.
And that is Giles and Dom's film terms of the week. I have no idea what that jingle is.
I think it changes every time. We'll find it. We'll find its flow.
Yeah, someone will send one in, please.
Yeah.
Send a brilliant one in for us,
Yeah.
and we'll
Maybe
feature
some
it.
synth piano.
It'll be used everywhere.
Let's see what we can come up with.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Right, well, there we go. That's our new thing.
Yeah.
Next week, we might ask you what a dead cat is, or a C-47, or a dope sheet. There's a lot of these. It's
Yeah.
going to be fun.
The dead cat one could be quite good if you get into the territory of that drone that's made of a cat, his stuffed cat, and it's a flying cat. It's a drone.
What? I don't understand.
It's very funny. Well, I think people with dark humor find it very, very funny. People
No, but
that,
I don't
like,
understand what you're talking about.
There is a drone
What?
out there, like a drone, that films
Oh,
stuff.
there's an actual drone, a
Actual
camera drone, right?
But it's
Yeah.
it's a stuffed cat.
Okay.
If you
Now I'm getting
Google
understand
it,
what you're
I
saying.
think it's very funny, but I think you have to have a slightly deranged sense of humour to find amusement in it. But
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fine. No animals were hurt in the making.
No. I mean, it was his cat. It was very well looked after, and he just decided to keep it going. And
Wait, stop
Yeah.
it. He did not.
yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
What, he stuffed his own cat and turned
yeah,
it into a drone?
Yeah, exactly.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. So there we go.
What a fact.
Mm.
What?
Yeah,
I still
Google
can't
it.
see that.
It's a great Google. Yeah.
I don't want to. That's horrible.
I don't know. I find. I don't know. I don't. I feel like it's it's not like it's not like roadkill. It's like it's just him. Maybe he hasn't got over the grief of his cat, and he just wants to
Yeah, but why?
fly it around.
That doesn't make any sense.
just to see it
Why?
everywhere.
But he
Dunno.
doesn't. It's up in the sky.
I don't know, but I bet the wind protection's pretty good on that dead cat.
Sounds like a catastrophe.
Oh, God.
Oh. Right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening. You are all amazing to even get this far. I hope you've enjoyed this. We're going to keep doing this because it's fun. At the end of the episode, we're going to do a film term.
At least we have fun. That's the main thing.
That is the main thing.
Yeah.
Joy is out on Netflix now. Go watch it. We will see you next Tuesday when we have Richard Linklater and Glenn Bloomin' Powell on the show.
Whoa.
Whoa, indeed. Talking about Hitman. Amazing.
So you'll be able to click the link later.
I love that gag, and I'm glad you're repurposing it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you do it every single time we mention Richard Linklater.
Yes. Yeah. I might have mentioned it on the episode intro. I can't remember.
Yeah, you did. And then we also have Beckham Woods talking about Heretic. They're coming up soon.
We're also marking the UK release of Conclave, which has already come out in America. So if you haven't listened to that yet, we will be pushing that. So there.
Yep, and then Sarah Brocklehurst talking about the Outrun. So
Yes.
we've got that coming up. Dom has chatted to Skeleton Crew, the new Star Wars series.
Yep.
the team behind that. And we're talking to Nick Ham, the director of Tell, as well.
Pray do tell.
Super exciting. Pray.
What is that? Tell.
Yeah, it's about William Tell.
Oh,
the story
okay.
of William Tell.
It's very telling.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of excitement. Plus our Christmas special with a quiz. We're going to do a full quiz. There might be more film terms in that. Oh, I'm excited now. We will see you next Tuesday. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Dom.
Thanks, Charles.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.